Good morning. This morning I had something I wanted to say to young men, in particular, young men who feel pressure from the culture in a way that I believe is satanically driven, and it's coming in the form of shame and guilt at masculinity. And there's a lot of pressure in our culture right now coming to silence men and to encourage men to be weak or to be ashamed of what they would call toxic masculinity. And of course, for every concept, there's the potential for something to be toxic. So I don't want to deny that, and perhaps we should clarify what we don't mean. But masculinity is something that God made. If you go back to Genesis chapter 1, God makes man in the image of God. Genesis 1. Let me read it to you. He makes man in his own image. Chapter 1, verse 26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." Verse 27. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. And then it says something very interesting. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." Verse 31, God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. And I think what young men need to hear today, and perhaps this is the opposite of what needed to be heard in past generations, but being made a man is part of bearing the image of God. And it's not something that you need to be ashamed of. And God has a specific design for men, and it's different than his design for women. It was necessary that God make men male and female to multiply and to fill the earth and subdue it. But we have different roles in that, and being a man is part of bearing the image of God, and God has a specific design for that. And I'm not talking about toxic masculinity. I'm not talking about much of what the world would define as what a man looks like or what masculinity looks like. But being a man has biblical characteristics, and we can look at them. And one of the aspects of masculinity that I think our culture is trying to shame out of young men is strength. I noticed it when I was young that what's frequently referred to as the greatest generation, or the World War II generation of men, coming out of a very Christianized culture. If not, I'll say there was still a lot of residual masculinity. Men and women had their roles, not to say that it was all perfect or that it was ideal or that we should try to go back to that and restore it, but just to recognize that over the last 70 or 80 years, the culture has gone from being needed to be reminded that females were also created in the image of God to now I think young men need to hear that the fact that they're male, the fact that God made them men, is part of them bearing the image of God. And God has a specific design and a plan for your masculinity, and part of that is strength. I think that one of the best passages to show that, other than just looking at the life of Jesus and seeing how strong he was, not to diminish his kindness or his gentleness or his love, but just how strong he was, is an important passage to look at the design for men, was a reminder that he gives to Joshua in Joshua chapter 1. It's at his commissioning, and I'll just read it to you. It's starting in verse 1, Joshua chapter 1, verse 1. I'll read down to verse 9. Now it came about after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, that the Lord spoke to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' servant, saying, "Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, cross this Jordan, you and all this people, to the land which I am giving to them, to the sons of Israel. Every place on which the sole of your foot treads, I have given it to you, just as I spoke to Moses. From the wilderness of this Lebanon as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and as far as the great sea toward the setting of the sun will be your territory. No man will be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I have been with Moses, I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. Verse 6, Be strong and courageous, for you shall give this people possession of the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Verse 7, Only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, so that you may have success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not tremble or be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And in other places, like chapter 8, verse 1, he reminds us Joshua to not fear. I think the fact that he's reinforcing this to Joshua 3 times, that he, in order to lead God's people, he needed to be strong and very courageous. Young men need to hear this today, because women in our culture are being encouraged to be strong and courageous. I see a tendency in the young people that I see, young Christian people even, that the women are attempting to be strong and bold and frankly, to be as masculine as they possibly can be. And the men, especially what I'm seeing in the younger men that I'm working with, a lot of them would be Gen Z. They've been raised in this culture that has shamed men, and it's shamed men for strength. It's shamed men if they're heard. It's shamed men if they speak up. It's taught them that there's something shameful to their desire to lead. There's a reason for them to be ashamed of any strength that they feel or any ambition. And I see men who are hopeless and they're despairing. And you can see this too in the type of men that are gaining traction in the world. The Joe Rogans and the Jordan Petersons. And I think that these men, though unregenerate, are seeing that our culture is destroying masculinity and hating masculinity, and there's something good and something beautiful there, in spite of the tendencies for there to be sinful perversions of these things. They're being trained to be ashamed that they were created in the image of God as men, and they need to hear that there's something good that they can be, and there's something necessary that they need to be to lead their wives, to lead their families, to lead their churches, and to be useful in this world. And I think that what the Lord is saying to Joshua in these things is that part of what he is needed to do is to be strong. He needs to be strong. It's not to be ashamed of. It's actually required for him to do the things that the Lord is giving him to do to lead his people. And he's going to have to be courageous. And in our day and age, where we're fighting a culture that shames masculine strength, a man who believes or has any conviction or speaks up or says anything or dares to stand against his culture, that young man is going to need courage, because he'll probably have to stand alone. And in fact, if you look around at the men over him, I mean, if you look at the popular pastors who get up with their skinny jeans on and their tennis shoes, they're almost as feminized as they can possibly be. And what we need to see is that God needs us to be men. He needs men. I do believe that there is a satanic strategy to destroy masculinity, because a city without walls is easily defeated, and part of the defense that God has created for this world, for your culture, for your homes, for the church, for your families, is your strength. And we need to be reminded that the Lord requires his leaders to be strong and very courageous, and it's a good thing. And you can be strong in humility. You can be strong in repentance. You can be bold and very courageous and not abuse people or take advantage of people. Christ is the perfect example, of course, of all of these things. And he was very strong. and he used his strength to give his life for his people, for his bride. And so, guys, you can't be too strong. You need to be men of conviction. We have to be men of conviction, and we have to be willing to fight against the culture that we're in. That's what I got for you today. I hope you are blessed by this, and be bold and very courageous. Have a good day.